Good evening, my fellow patriots. Welcome to another edition of the MAGA Daily Digest. I am your host, Lionel Washington, and I'm coming to you live with another exclusive interview with the January 6th political prisoner, Paul Hodgkins. This is part two of his experience. There was just too much to uncover that historic day in one interview. So Paul's agreed to come back for another episode to finish off the interview. Where we left off, Paul was talking about what motivated him to participate in January 6th, the stolen election, and just the groundswell of opposition to the Biden administration. But we didn't get a chance to talk about how January 6th and how his life has been impacted after January 6th and what it was like to meet President Trump. We all want to hear about that. So, with that being said, I want to turn it over to Paul. And Paul, tell me about how January 6th has affected your life.
Hello again, Lionel. It's great to be back here. Thank you for having me again. I'm looking forward to tonight. Yeah, so how it's affected me since then. It's had a major, major impact on my life, as one could imagine. I had never been in trouble before my arrest for January 6th, so this was all very new to me. Pretty traumatizing, as you can imagine. I was arrested at my home. I had a team of about 8 armored agents, officers come to the house when they had arrested me, and went on pretrial for, I believe it was about 6 months of pretrial before I was sentenced. Well, no, even less than 6 months before I had been convicted, and then about 6 months before sentencing. And it was quite a roller coaster to be on, because things weren't going good for me with that. Once I was sentenced to prison, I had lost a career that I had been at for 7 years at a pretty big company that I was coming up on the promotion of my life with. So that was one of the biggest letdowns from it all. I had had spent quite a bit of money, keeping legal fees and so many other things, not working for about 6 to 8 months, maintaining a home and everything while I was away. And then, of course, there was the time coming to prison. There was pretty terrible fallout, between media, some politicians, and, quite all around at that time, the first year out or so from January 6th. So things on the media, you'd go to turn, you'd see CNN, you'd see, Joy Reid with her show, saying, some pretty nasty things about me specifically, being that I was the very, very first person to get sentenced to prison from January 6th. It really put all eyes on me when I was, going up to DC to be sentenced in July of 2021. So,
And can you talk about specifically what you were charged with again? Because you weren't charged with insurrection. So what did they actually charge you with?
I was given the controversial 1512 obstruction charge, which is obstruction of an official proceeding, which was very controversial to be applied to any of these cases in the first place, considering that what was going on in the Senate chamber that day is not considered a judicial proceeding. It is considered a congressional session. They were engaged in a debate at the time. But also, it involves a lot of things within its statute that virtually nobody on January 6th has actually, has evidence of. It involves witness tampering. It involves document shredding. It was a charge that was enacted following the Enron scandal many years ago, and it was, to prevent, fraudulent finances and tax records and things of that nature. Essentially, I was convicted of a tax charge by trespassing in the Senate. Essentially, what it comes down to.
Right.
Makes very little sense. By the way, interestingly, an investigation was not opened into me until January 21st, 2021, the day after Donald Trump left office, if that tells you anything.
Wow.
Right there. And I'm sure a similar case for many people who were charged from January 6th. Very few of them, I think, predated Biden's entry to office. But regardless, So then there I was, facing prison. I had about 2 months before I self-surrendered to a federal prison in Miami, Florida. And on the way in, I'm watching on the, major news networks, being called some pretty terrible things: a domestic terrorist, a thug, a right-wing extremist, and a white supremacist. Things that I've never had any kind of affiliation or any kind of never harbored any kind of thing such of the like in my whole life. But, I've got the media saying these things about me because of January 6th, as I'm going into a prison where the white population is very, very small, very small, far and few between. And I've got these kind of, sediments from the media, with a very, very public case on the way in. So you can imagine that this is very concerning at the time. I went to prison. I went in just very quietly. I didn't talk about, why I was there. I didn't ask anybody else about theirs. Kept to myself, just exercise, watch movies as I could. Uh, didn't have any problems really in federal prison,
So
except for,
nobody
being.
nobody recognized you. Nobody tried to come at you for supporting Trump or being a white supremacist. You didn't have any problems with prison gangs or anybody trying to intimidate you.
I didn't. People were a little more friendly than I had imagined. From what guys and other inmates had told me, here in the feds, you tend to have a little bit less terrible situation than in a lot of state penitentiaries
Okay.
for things. You're in a prison with people who have done things like tax fraud, some drug deals, robberies, things like this.
Not
And
non-violent mainly.
I mean, some of them. There was somebody in there who was, committed armed robbery of banks.
Okay.
But generally, people who are serving, life sentences for murder and things like that tend to go to a state prison.
Okay.
But regardless, I just kept to myself and just didn't talk about the reasons why I was there. Interestingly, while I was in, on that first anniversary of January 6th, I was awakened in my cell after the breakfast rounds. I tend to go back to sleep if I can. I was visited by the prison's warden. Came to my cell. The warden almost never deals with inmates one on one like this.
Wow.
So he said to me, Hodgkins, why don't you come out here? We want to have a talk with you. And I was really, really concerned right then. What did I do? What did I do here? And he said, come out in the hallway so no one else has to hear. So I go out in the hallway and talk, and he says, okay, you know what today is, don't you? And I said, yes. He said, all right, well, we've picked up some intel. Apparently, there's going to be an organized protest outside the prison today over you, meaning me.
Wow.
So, yeah, unbeknownst to me, which I explained, and he said, well, we know that because we've already checked all your communications from the prison and don't recognize any intel about this. But as a precaution, he said that I had to be kept in the SHU during this. To what most people don't know, SHU is special housing unit, what most people who've never been incarcerated know as the hole.
Oh wow.
Uh,
Okay.
so I was brought to the prison's dungeon. Not a very nice place. This is where they put misbehaved inmates usually. I was in a dirty little cell, half the size of the undersized cell that I already had, and I had to share it with a 20-year-old kid who was in for premeditated attempted murder and spent about 12 hours or so in there. You have nothing to occupy your time like you do in your, general population unit. You let out of the cell 1 hour a day to shower, use the phone, whatnot. Yeah, and but anyways, I only spent half a day there before the staff came back and took me back down to my unit. But while that was going on, the televisions in our unit showing the local news showed the protest outside the prison and why it was going on.
Oh, okay.
And the cat was out of the bag about me at that point when I came back. And what I was really surprised about was most of the inmates who are in prison are actually with it with Donald Trump. They're with it with MAGA. They think a lot of his policies are better. I talked about in my last interview here about the First Step Act that he signed into law, which gave me
Right.
a break on my sentence. It gave other inmates breaks on theirs. And most of the staff, most of the COs, correctional officers in the prison are also uh, favor Donald Trump as well. So it made my experience a little better to my surprise. I thought that would have been the thing that put a bullseye right on me coming in.
Right.
Instead, it gave
Okay.
me it gave me they treated me with a little more respect. It seemed after that.
MAGA Nation saved you inside the prison as well.
It did. I was surprised. I mean, not everybody's with it. You had some folks who were like not buying it, don't buy Trump as something good. But uh, anyways, so I got through serving my time. I went home. I had a long, scraggly beard. Um, I had to get back to life. Got a new job. I've been at for a while now. I started right away when I came home. I started my very own fruit tree farm.
Oh,
I now,
wow.
yeah, a hobby I got going on. Actually, my cellmate in prison inspired me about it a little bit because when we would get pieces of fruit, he would save a seed from an apple or uh, an orange or something, and in a disposable cup, he would cocoon it with a bunch of just wet paper towels and let it sprout into a tree. And that just kind of, I thought that was neat, and that kind of let me
Oh, okay. So he was growing
gave me
fruit
some
inside the
inspiration.
cell.
Yeah, just he kept it hidden under his bed or something, a little apple tree. But in any event, yeah. So I bought a papaya when I came home and collected all the seeds, cultivated. I have probably around 100 trees or so here between papaya, orange trees, and starfruit. And on my plans, I plan to eventually buy some acreage and put them in the ground and start a fruit farm of my own. But anyways, so that was one thing that I came home that was new to me. Since then, my relationship with a lot of people changed. A lot of fallout, like I said, with a lot of those hysterical Kool-Aid drinkers I used to know, but also took on a whole new circle of friends that I didn't have before. A lot of people that have been new to my life that have been really great and supportive to me, really, really share each other's lives, experiences, and views. And my life, I feel, if anything, now I feel more comfortable and stronger, from it all since then. Uh, I'm still trying to unpack and take in what it means, all of this means, these last decade or so that we've lived through between Trump's, non-consecutive, elections that he has, where he's in office
Right.
and what that means for America, what January 6th, how that tied into it. I got to be honest, after the fallout shortly after January 6th, as Trump was leaving office on his first term, even I had some real doubts. I said to myself, I don't see how he's could ever be president again after this.
Right.
I mean, even all the people, most of the people that were on his side, it seemed, were turning their backs at that point. People in his cabinet, resigning right away. His fallout from Twitter, Fox News was not giving him the graces that they used to, and
Right.
it was, so I really had my doubts, but I hung on to hope, and with all the hard work and perseverance that so many MAGAs, like you and
Yeah.
myself and many others,
Yeah.
kept up through these tough years, really came through, and I think this era that we've had in the last decade is going to be one of the most standout times America's going to look back on through the decades to come.
Paul, talk to me a little bit about. You said you had some Kool-Aid drinkers that were your friends, and then they fell out. Like, talk to me a little bit more about that, and because I know exactly what it feels like when you lose friends because of politics. It hurts.
So some of them really were just so deranged by Trump's rise to the presidency that it gave anybody who was a real like advocate and supporter of his, just the same kind of vitriol that they were giving him. They know what they don't like about Donald Trump. They or they think they do anyways, but we're the ones who put him where he is.
Right.
I mean, he's got a talent, that really brought himself, and gusto that got him to where he is. But without all of us, he would
It
not
was
be
we the
president of the
people.
United States. Exactly. And I think a lot of liberals don't like, deep down in, they don't like that American freedom. They don't like this we the people movement that we have. They can't stand the America First movement. They hate his face. And then that, rubs right off onto me. I used to have some of the closest of friends you could imagine. We had spent holidays together, go on trips together. We've taken care of each other when we were at our worst sometimes. Uh, Shared a lot of experiences we're always going to remember. But
Right.
it's unbelievable, like the 180 that we've seen from so many of them. Before January 6th even happened, I had already had, kind of my own recluse stage for a while there. I knew I was miserable and unhappy with things following the 2020 election. I took my solitude as I did, and just took time to process and try to cope with this, and above all else, get a game plan together for how to move forward and what to do next. And then, of course, when January 6th happened, that they had a really, really dim view and very terrible feeling about that. So they're going to have a very terrible feeling about me, that I've fallen and taken on, some pretty horrible opinions and views. They feel that, I've, you know, gone out of my way in ways that I shouldn't have. They feel that, I attribute to, something that's been the downfall of America. Their feeling right now is America failed with this past election. America failed itself. It's lost its integrity. Uh, Now, again, I've said in my last interview, I don't want to be completely unempathetic, because I knew all along this last election cycle how I was going to feel if we didn't make it, and how I would have felt like we'd lost all hope. How bitter towards life and society I would have been.
Right.
So a part of me does try to be empathetic to that they don't hold these same views that we have for America. They're entitled to their wrong opinions if they need to be, but
Right.
uh, I
I mean, I
think
say
that
that all
that
the time that, the people that turned against me, my friends, my family that turned against me because of my politics, I still love them. I
yeah.
still have nothing but love for them. But it hurts because it's like, we can't just have, an ideological disagreement. They want to personalize it. They want to call you names. They want to call you. Do you know I get called a white supremacist? I'm like, come on, you know what I mean? Like, because if you don't support the Democratic Party, you're a Nazi, you're a racist, you're a white supremacist, and it's just like by default. And so
Yeah.
it was so vindicating that Trump won this last election.
Yeah, they call you a white supremacist. They think you can get pregnant too.
Oh,
Can you hear
absolutely, exactly.
that? No, I think they really don't like the direction of the country, and they especially, since January 6th and since I've come home from prison, uh, I feel like I said I've become stronger. I've been given, a lot of credibility. I've been given, much bigger megaphones for my voice and my causes. I do a lot of public speaking events. I've spoken at different uh, clubs, community events, universities, and it's been something that I hope to carry on with. Hence why we're here together tonight. But ultimately, I ultimately do wish we could all just be friends and get along better. I don't like this division that exists in America nowadays. A lot of people point fingers as to why that is. The way the left behaves, and the way it kind of really opened my eyes to the way the left and the mainstream media behaves, especially since Donald Trump's rise, just made me realize more and more the things that I don't like with direction that we have gone in some ways. I don't like going out to watch a lot of movies. I don't have cable. I don't like to watch most things on TV. I feel like a lot of things are being like we're told what to like, we're told what's cool, we're told what's in. We're fed what kind of trends to be on. We're fed what kind
Right.
of styles are need to be right now. Sometimes I feel like if it tries to make us feel like if you don't like Taylor Swift, there's something wrong with you. You're not a
Right.
good person.
Right.
The stuff like that,
Or Beyonce or whatever,
or the way, or going to watch a Disney movie, cartoon movie, animated Disney movie when I was a kid compared to now is just. I mean,
Yeah, it's like I really
you,
do feel like they forced the whole transgender, the whole LGBTQ, they forced the whole woke movement down your throat. I mean, they force it down your throat. And
can
if
you
you
can you imagine something like Disney doing a sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit in this day and age?
oh, definitely
It
not
couldn't
with
be
Jessica
done. It
Rabbit.
could not be done. And that was a really great. That's like one of the most like stand out from the others things that Disney ever did. But they don't
Right.
dare to do anything like that again because it's so un PC. Everything about it. Jessica Rabbit, her character is like.
Awesome.
Anyways, but I love Jessica Rabbit, but
Absolutely. But
I
no, I
always
do
did.
I do feel like though America has come together under Donald Trump. I really his coalition is the Obama coalition after we've grown up. I mean, the Obama coalition was mostly made up of young people, millennials. But if you look at like the first election of Donald Trump, mainly driven by people over 65, a few, boomers. But this 2024 election, it was young people, it was people under 45, it was Latino men, it was black men, it was women. I mean, it was a multiracial, multigender, multi-generational revolution. And I think it's one of the most beautiful things in politics because when Obama did his thing, it was kind of like we wrapped ourselves around the cult of his personality. But with
Yeah,
Trump, it's like it's about the American flag, it's about our founding fathers, it's about our destiny as a nation, about our shared ancestry, our inheritance as the most powerful nation in the world. It's a beautiful thing.
it really is. I think his base has grown quite a bit, obviously by the numbers, and uh, compared to when it started, I think he's really branched out in a lot of ways, and MAGA has taken on a lot of things that it didn't have in the beginning that I think really resonates with other people that it didn't before. I think a lot of things like RFK Jr.'s work that he's doing. This is someone who ran as a Democrat, tried to run against Donald Trump, who's
Right.
one of like the most important people in his cabinet now,
Absolutely.
trying to make a difference in ways I've never seen some any kind of HHS secretary making the kind of strides right off the bat like this man is.
Absolutely.
He's bringing knowledge and education about certain things to people that I think people have never heard about. I was talking about this with folks today. That's going to help to make people healthier. Just being aware more of what we consume and what it does.
Well, yeah,
And
a lot of the ingredients that we are allowed to ingest in our food are banned overseas.
oh yeah, and we're using additives in food. I think to make them more cost effective to the makers, where they can more plentifully, produce foods at a cheaper cost, and these additives that they use, make the food less quality and is more harmful to us. I'm eating less and less each year that goes by, less and less packaged, pre-made foods on my own for these very reasons. But things like that, his work together with Elon Musk, I think, has been tremendous. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me why people on the left despise Elon Musk so much. I mean, one of the biggest things that fascinates and drives people to the left, it seems, are EVs.
Right.
The guy is like an innovator of EVs, revolutionized the the industry, and
I think it's funny because
so many
mainly a lot of the people that are mad at him probably drive a Tesla.
drive a Tesla. They probably would take interest in things like SpaceX and so many other innovative projects that Elon has done and will do going forward. And that I think gives America an idea of America's future. Elon Musk is a man of the future, who wants to really help bring America, to its full potential and what we can do. We're going to be hitting our 250th anniversary of America coming up.
Absolutely.
And we talk about on the 100th anniversary, all the different showcased inventions and things that we brought to the future that we take for granted now, telecommunications and so much more. Think about what we could have showcasing in this next exhibition, what's going to
Absolutely.
bring us to the future, things we're not even imagining right now. And that's what I mean. Trump is a visionary that really, really just makes sense to so many people. And it's fascinating to see. I don't think we've ever had a president who was so loved and hated by people at the same time. By the way,
Right.
it was just I hate to even give them any mention, but when I was driving home from the gym earlier tonight. I passed on a big intersection corner. There was some resistance movement that wasn't all that huge. Lots of Mexican and Palestine flags and pride flags being worn, and some types of chants that they had. It was against Trump and
Notice they never
against
have any
Elon Musk. A
American
lot of
flags.
them against Elon Musk. No one elected Elon. it's
Yeah, so they
you
had
know
no
what?
problem. They had no problem with unelected bureaucrats when it was Dr. Fauci. They
Yeah,
had no problem with unelected Democrats when Kamala Harris was just selected to be the Democrat nominee. I mean, she didn't receive not one primary vote, and Democrats didn't have a problem with that.
look,
Dr.
we
Fauci
don't elect.
not one vote.
The only people in a president's cabinet that we elect is the president and vice president. Okay,
Right,
we don't elect anybody, any secretary of any branch.
right.
We don't elect the chief of staff. Okay, we elect a president to pick these things and a senate to approve them to serve in the cabinet. So like this thing, no one elected Elon is just bunk. He was very visible with Donald Trump when we elected him.
Right.
Talked
We
very
knew he
much
was going to
about
be on the
things.
team.
We knew what they wanted to do. We knew that he would be on the team. So this is like I think they feel that his helps Donald Trump win, and it helps win more people over. So that's what their problem with it is. Not that it's it all comes down to how they don't play fair. But in any event, uh, I think it's going to go down when Donald Trump wraps up the second term. His presidency is going to go down with a very, very positive view in hindsight, I believe.
I believe so too.
We're gonna remember his brashness. We're gonna remember times where he wasn't afraid to say things that he shot from the hip with. Uh, we're all human beings with emotions and feelings. None of us are all going to agree about anything together. We so going forward with that, as how it's affected me since January 6th. It's been a tough few years, but ultimately, I feel like I can rest a lot easier now, knowing that America made the choice that it did and put a lot of things that are going to be remembered in history on the right side of things, I believe.
With just a few minutes left, Paul, but want to wrap up before we get cut off.
Yeah,
Um, what is the main message you want people to take away from your experience on January 6th?
look, we got to remember that God is always in control. Uh, keep our faith in God. We're gonna tomorrow's tomorrow is never promised. Okay, you got to keep each day that you live. You got to keep that in mind. Tomorrow is never promised. From January 6th, I don't look back on it and celebrate it like it was a really fun concert that I went to. I mean, there's a lot of things that happened that day that shouldn't have happened. A lot of things went wrong that shouldn't have gone wrong. It was a day where patriotism came together and I believe was screwed with, by people that we trust, to, be figures of authority to us and misused our trust in doing that. There, I really do hope that going forward, we can just be able to focus on what does help us, what does bring us together, and what brings a common good here in America that's going to give us, a lot of prosperity and safety for many, many years to come.
Well, Paul, I
Yeah.
just want to, thank you again for taking the time to share your story with me. I hope that we're able to get some visibility on this story because I think it's a story that needs to be told. It's a story that's not being told. I want to hear more about the experience of other January Sixers and what we can do to sort of right the injustice. I know the pardon was significant, but that's one thing I want you to talk about that with just a couple minutes left. What was it like meeting Donald Trump?
Yes, I had been invited to Mar-a-Lago in March of 2022. Excuse me, 2023, and it was a really great experience. It came up very abruptly that I was invited. I did meet with him. He brought a great sense of humor with him. Talked with us. I talked. I was introduced to him, and when he was told who I was, he shook my hand and he said, "That's no good, but we'll take care of that, no problem." And boy, did he ever! Right here over my shoulder, right here is the plaque. That is my certificate of pardon from President Donald Trump. Right next, you can't see it from this far away. Right next to that is our picture together at the dining table at Mar-a-Lago. But
Awesome.
no, and that really, it really put to rest then, all the people that said, "Oh, Donald Trump's out playing golf. He doesn't care about you. What's he going to do for you now? He got you thrown
Right.
in jail." Uh, I think it's safe to say he's done a lot for me personally, and he's done a lot for America. Yeah, this and still the best is yet to come. Believe that right now. You can bet your bottom dollar the bet on that.
Absolutely. Well, again, Paul, thank you, for taking the time to share your story with me. I want to encourage my audience to share this interview, to share this, record this interview as far and wide as you can, because I really do believe that this is a story that needs to be told. And, I want everyone to tune in because we're going to have more of these type of interviews. We're going to have more of these, types of conversations as the MAGA Daily Digest moves forward. So I just want to thank everybody. And as always, if you ain't on the Trump train, you better get off the tracks.
That's
Choo
right.
choo. Thanks, Paul.
Everybody, thank you very much for having me. God bless America. I wish everybody safe happiness, and let's work together. Let's make 2025 a great year.
Let's do it. All right. Well, let's make America great again, everybody. Good night.
Peace.